So PulseX is a fork of Uniswap that activates the platform fee that's built into the Uniswap code, so it's secure as could be. I invented, and I think it's one of the first times it'll ever be seen, is that you harvest, or the platform fee gets sent to a contract address, and then that contract address has public functions. Relying on a human to wake up and do something that profits other people more than it profits themselves, that's a big ask. Let's talk about PulseX. The most popular applications on the Ethereum network are NFTs, which I don't like, but I wish I did like, because everyone gets a copy of their NFTs over on Pulsechain, right? So you overpaid for a serial number loosely related to a JPEG that may or may not still be hosted on the internet. Congrats. You now have that same serial number on a new chain with the same keys that access it and mostly the same code. Good for you. Congratulations. Now, what's the second most popular thing? Well, the second most popular, and by the way, these measurements aren't totally accurate. So when I say NFTs are the most popular, it just means they consume the most gas. I don't think they actually have the most users. I think a lot more people trade on decentralized exchanges than use NFTs. I just think the NFTs suck up a lot of gas. So Uniswap has the majority of on-chain exchange liquidity in the Ethereum ecosystem. So they've got 8.2 billion locked up. And then SushiSwap is number 2. And they've got like 3.4 billion locked up. Something. When people do their jobs poorly in one area, you find out often that they do their jobs poorly in a lot of other areas. So what is Uniswap? Uniswap is a place. It's the most, probably one of the most popular apps, like number 1 or 2 on the Ethereum ecosystem. And I think it's very useful. You know, solving on-chain exchange, removing counterparty risk, being an oracle and not having to use some other oracle. It's awesome, right? It's all very, very good. And for a long time, they were totally open source. So Uniswap v1 had no admin keys, and it was totally open source. Then with v2, there was a light admin key, and that they could flip a switch that would take some of your a fee. I heard a rumor, by the way, that Hayden Adams like cashed out a couple billion on Coinbase. Oh, okay, man. Uniswap v3 isn't open source. So you have to wait 2 years. So after they released it, they put a 2-year timer that it would become open source after 2 years. And so it's really neat that Uniswap v2 put that platform fee into the code with a switch that one day they could turn it on if they wanted to. Well, that's really awesome, because we're forking that and we're turning on the switch. Thanks. Don't have to do any work. So PulseX is a fork of Uniswap that activates the platform fee that's built into the Uniswap code, so it's secure as could be. But the issue is that it's only designed to send the platform fee to a single address. Then there's another feature where you can choose another address that's allowed to change the first address. I would say disable that. Why would you want admin keys? That's an admin key. You don't want admin keys. I would prefer to see, and this is the design intention, is that instead of taking the platform fee and sending it to an address, this creates huge problems in my opinion. So like PancakeSwap does this. They point their platform fee to an address, and then that address is controlled by people, and then those people are responsible for doing what the business logic they advertise says. So they say they're going to do a buy and burn. Okay. And then, well, what if the guy that has the admin keys just stays asleep? Then you don't get your buy and burn. Or what if he just sends all the money to himself instead of buying and burning, right? I'm in cryptocurrency to reduce counterparty risk wherever possible and make things more secure and more decentralized and more reliable and more trustless. Relying on a human to wake up and do something that profits other people more than it profits themselves, that's a big ask. I invented, and I think it's one of the first times it'll ever be seen, is that you harvest, or the platform fee gets sent to a contract address, and then that contract address has public functions that allow anyone that wants to run the public function, just like anyone can run good accounting in the Hex system, or anyone can run the daily update in the Hex system. Well, the same thing applies with this. Anyone will be able to run the buy and burn function, and they just choose which pairs they want to buy and burn for, and it will perform a buy action or a swap action on itself, the PulseX platform, and it will turn all of those various coins that it received as fees. So when you swap, you pay a fee. What do you pay the fee in? The coin that you have, not the coin that you want. And so when you pay your fee, the people that are providing liquidity, or the platform fee, they get a bunch of random coins for whatever pairs people are trading on and whatever side of the pair they entered in. So now people go, they run the public function, they choose what pairs they want, because maybe some illiquid pair you don't care, or maybe some, pair doesn't exist anymore. Who knows, right? Like, there's a whole lot of variables. So the people choose the pairs they want, they pay their gas, and then the contract will execute the swap on the PulseX system, which is funny because it actually is self-amplifying. So when people trade, it generates fees, and only the PulseX holders will benefit from that, because it's going to buy PulseX and then burn it, and with no admin keys. Awesome, Well, let's give the end users a better deal. So instead of the end users paying 0.3%, why don't they just pay 0.29? So my suggestion for PulseX is that the fee for users is 0.29. Then you peel off, for the platform fee, 0.06. Why? Because it's the largest amount of buy and burn that I'm aware of. So, the only other platform that I know that has buy and burn, that has volume, is PancakeSwap, and their buy and burn is 0.05. All right, well, 0.06 is higher than 0.05, and 0.29 is lower than 0.30, which is the most common fee. So now you're giving the users a better deal. You're having a larger buyback and burn. And now what's another issue? Even though Pancake buys backs and burns with an admin key, it's still net inflationary, because they're constantly minting new coins to reward people for putting liquidity in their pools. It's net inflationary. In PulseX, we're not going to have any inflation, none, because PulseX will not be minted to reward people for adding liquidity to pools. So if you do the math, a 0.06 buy and burn is a 21% buy and burn of the total fee of 0.29. So 0.06 is 21% of 0.29. That's pretty big buy and burn, 21%. So basically, the sacrificers that have all the PulseX coins, they're going to get buyback and burns of 20.68% on all of the volume that goes through the system. I think that's a really big deal, and let me tell you why. These automated market maker systems kind of compete with each other. What do users care about? Getting the best deal. How do they get the best deal? Liquidity. The thickest order book is going to have the least slippage, is going to get them the best price in the end if they're trading any kind of volume. If it was like a tiny trade, maybe gas fee and the 0.3 thing would matter more. But in the end, the thing that matters the most for large users that generate the majority of the volume is liquidity. The automated market maker ratio bot is the first transaction at the fork, goes and harvests 99.9% of all of the liquidity out of Uniswap, out of Sushi, probably out of 0x, anywhere that it can find it pretty much. Now what happens? All of that liquidity will be added. So all those PRC20s are getting harvested, and then they're getting added as liquidity into PulseX. Originally, I thought that you would need to mint 6% of the PulseX supply in order to match the other side. But I think you might only have to mint the square root of 6%, which might be like 2.5 or something. So what you're going to have is a system where holders of PulseX receive price appreciation from buybacks and burns with no admin keys. from the most liquid automated market maker on the Pulsechain network, because it went and emptied out all of the liquidity from all the PRC20s, which makes it the most liquid AMM, which means that people are going to get the least slippage, which means that most of the users are likely going to use that AMM. So even though Uniswap comes over in the fork, and even though Sushi comes over in the fork, it's very likely that people will choose to use PulseX instead of those because they got emptied of their liquidity. So I think having by far vastly, I mean, you're combining liquidity of all the largest market makers in Uniswap or in Ethereum into one market maker, and then you're having a lower fee. You're doing the largest buyback and burn. The second part, it's not minimum viable, but I think it will be nice. So what do I want to see happen? I want to see everyone bridge in their ERC20s and back the value of their PRC20s that they got for free. Because the LP guys, they're getting harvested. The liquidity providers, they're getting harvested. But everybody else, the vast majority, only maybe 6% of coins, rough guess, only about 6% of coins of total supply is sitting in Uniswap or similar. So the vast majority of ERC20s and PRC20s are going to be sitting outside of those. They're sitting in people's wallets. So you have the most liquidity on the system. You have no admin keys, which, by the way, I mean, Uniswap has admin key. They can turn on that fee whenever they want. With ours, it's just going to start in the end state with the fee already on, and then you don't have to ever worry about the state changing from an admin key because there won't be any admin keys. It's better. It's vastly better, in my opinion. You have this new token. This new token's inflationary. Why? Because it has to reward people that are always doing stuff, and so it always has to reward them. Now, you make the inflation decline over time, similar to how Bitcoin did. People like that. And it only goes to people that provide liquidity. Now, I think that this extra... So if you didn't have this, and you just had the minimum viable product, that would be fine. But what if the USDC company, Circle, actually issues native USDC on Pulsechain, as they have done for other chains? Well, then now you wouldn't want to incentivize people to use the less efficient, abstracted USDC on Ethereum that requires bridges. That would be inefficient and silly. You would much rather incentivize the new USDC contract and the new USDC pair that was a direct to Circle pair. And, you know, what if they just upgrade their contract and you need to use a new address? What if one of the coins you're incentivizing has an exploit, et cetera, et cetera?